Good morning to you all. Welcome to this side event. Don't forget, you should not forget, don't forget, leaving no one behind, deaf women, importance of reproductive rights of deaf women and sign language-based communication. Many people have talked about reproductive rights, particularly within the context of this conference. People have talked about women's rights. People have talked about rights of persons with disabilities. But what about deaf women? And do you know the importance of sign language-based communication? So let's dig into this subject through this side event. We have a very colorful sign languages already in this room. So I just would also like to introduce that as well. So when we speak in English, there is going to be international sign interpreters who interpret spoken English to international sign, because many people here online or on site understand international sign. We also have a sign language interpreter who would interpret from Thai sign language to international sign, who is in the room here. We who will interpret from Filipino sign language to spoken English and vice versa. So already you know diversity exists within sign language-based communication. I also like to encourage when people make speeches and finish their presentation to express our gratitude to them and perhaps your excitement. We can use and practice our sign language. Instead of clapping hands, we can do this. Let's practice this now. You got it? Yes, everybody got it. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce my boss, Ms. Tai Tai, who is Chief of Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Section of Social Development Division, ESCAP, to provide you an overview of Jakarta Declaration on the Asian Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities and issues faced by women with disabilities. So floor is yours, Tai Tai. Thank you.
Thank you, Echo, and a warm welcome to all of you to this special side event of the 7th Asian and Pacific Population Conference. Since the first launch of the Asia-Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities in 1993, can you hear the sound? How about it now? Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, start again. A warm welcome to all of you to this side event, a very important side event of the Asian and Pacific Population Conference. Since the first launch of the Asia-Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities in 1993, ESCAP has been promoting the rights of women with disabilities, as they are often overlooked by policies and laws. Today, on the occasion of APPC 7, we aim to address the insufficient attention given to the issues faced by women with disabilities, particularly the reproductive rights of deaf women. We'd like to encourage policymakers and organizations of persons with disabilities to work together to enhance deaf women's access to reproductive health services, including through the promotion of sign language-based communication. Now, next slide. ESCAP has been promoting a rights-based approach to disability issues through implementing disability decade initiatives continuously in the past 3 decades. Regional mandates to support these initiatives have been adopted by member states, the governments in the Asia-Pacific region, including most prominently is the Incheon strategy to make the right real for persons with disabilities, a set of disability-specific development goals. This is very unique because as of now, around the world, this is the only regionally adopted development goals focusing on disabilities. And this has been guiding our implementation of the third disability decade. Now, in 2023, we are entering the fourth Asian and Pacific decade of persons with disabilities, which is the latest commitment by ESCAP member states as enshrined in the Jakarta Declaration, which proclaimed the new decade starting from 2023 until 2032. The Jakarta Declaration underscores the continuing relevance of in-China strategy because most of the goals and targets have not been met, and emphasize a whole of government and a whole of society and human rights-based approach to disability inclusive development. ESCAP also developed an operational guide in close consultation with experts from government, CSOs, including organizations of persons with disabilities, private sector, academia, UN entities, and other development partners to serve as a technical resource supporting the implementation of the declaration. Next slide. So on the slides, as you can see, it presents the 6 priority areas outlined in the Jakarta Declaration to guide the implementation of the new disability decade. These include harmonizing national legislation with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This is the first priority area. Second, promoting the meaningful participation of persons with diverse disabilities. Third, improving universal design-based accessibility. Fourth, galvanizing the power of the private sector to utilize their resources to support our disability work and empowerment of persons with disability. Fifth, ensuring a gender-responsive life cycle approach to disability inclusion. Sixth, closing disability data gaps. In connection with today's side events, I will highlight 3 of the 6 priority areas. The meaningful participation of diverse disability groups in planning, decision-making, and political processes is of great importance. To act upon it, we must ensure accessibility, including provision of sign language interpreters, as we have seen in the room, for our deaf colleagues, and to enable deaf persons to participate in the discussion and decision-making. The accessibility of the physical environment, public transportation, information and communications, and other public facilities and services is a prerequisite for inclusive societies. As such, we will continue to request our member states to submit data on sign language interpreters and the provision of sign language in mass media. We have seen many countries started to do this, but we want to encourage more and more countries to do this. Now, to address the specific needs of children, women, and older persons with disabilities, a gender-responsive life cycle approach must be undertaken. Disability inclusion requires multi-sectoral interventions throughout the life cycle, addressing gender-based violence and reproductive health and reproductive rights. Indeed, the Jakarta Declaration explicitly recognized the need for women and girls with disabilities to access information and services, including sexual and reproductive health services. Next slide, please. So let's look at some of the issues faced by women with disabilities. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, known as CRPD, enshrines the rights of persons with disabilities in Article 6, and the rights of persons with disabilities to health services that are gender sensitive, including in the area of sexual and reproductive health in Article 25. The CRPD committee identified 3 key concerns regarding the protection of rights of persons with disability, especially women and girls. First, violence against women and girls with disability. Second, the restriction of reproductive rights, especially the right to motherhood and childbearing responsibilities. Third, intersectional discrimination against women and girls with disabilities. Next slide, please. Let's also take a quick look at the restriction on the reproductive rights of women with disabilities. Indeed, there remain significant areas of concern with respect to these rights, as women with disabilities often face physical, attitudinal, information, legal, and economic barriers. Such issues include forced abortion and sterilization, limited access to reproductive health services, lack of family planning information, denial of access to HIV services, sexual violence, and the denial of free and informed consent for medical and therapeutic treatments. Women with disabilities frequently experience a lack of control over their reproductive rights, with their choice disregarded and decisions substituted by legal representatives, violating their rights under Article 12 of CRPD. Another immense challenge for women and girls with disabilities in Asia and the Pacific is negative attitude from other people, including their own family. Women and girls with disabilities are often not regarded by the community as human beings with reproductive and parenting rights. Oftentimes, healthcare workers and family members do not think it is necessary to support women and girls with disabilities to access family planning and reproductive services because of their presumption that this would not be useful to them. Moreover, mothers with disabilities are significantly overrepresented in child protection proceedings, and they are disproportionately subject to the removal of their children by child protection authorities. These practices violate the human rights of women and girls with disabilities. Like all women, women with disabilities have the right to have control over and decide freely and responsibly on matters related to their sexual and reproductive health, free of coercion, discrimination, and violence. Next slide. So, how do we move forward towards a more positive and promising direction? Women with disabilities should be able to enjoy their full and informed consent, fully understanding the intentions behind measures to safeguard their reproductive health and freedom. Their dignity must be maintained in their communications with professionals. In the context of theme of this event, there are some essential steps toward these goals. First, information and communication services should be made accessible in all languages and formats, including through the provision of sign language interpretation. Furthermore, the information should be provided in the environment where women and girls with disabilities feel safe, and they need to feel that they are part of the conversation, not being ignored. Importantly, the budget should be secured to ensuring accessibility at a planning stage in all ministries and programs. We shall hear more from 2 deaf women here on their experiences in assessing health and reproductive health services and communicating with medical professionals. Next slide. CRPD recognizes sign language as a language and requests state parties to promote its use. ESCAP values the vital importance of sign language-based communication for deaf persons and produced the publication. Let me flip through it just now. As you can see online and also on the table in the room, it is called Sign Language, What is it? An ESCAP Guide Towards Legal Recognition of Sign Language in Asia and the Pacific. This guide aims to support our member states in understanding the importance of sign language and support their implementation of CRPD. Not only does this guide debunk myths about sign language and prejudices against deaf persons, it also explains their rich social, cultural, and linguistic diversity. It emphasizes the importance of early deaf childhood learning, deaf education, and sign language interpreting, and provides key elements of laws that recognize sign language as a language and that promote its use in diverse situations in the daily life of deaf persons. With this side event, we invite you to watch 3 short videos about this guide and promote the adoption of sign language-based communication in national legislation and implementation to guarantee not only deaf women's reproductive rights, but also disability inclusive development. Next slide. So I look forward to our fellow speakers to share their experience, challenges, initiatives, and suggestions on the way forward to enhance the use of sign language-based communication, to improve deaf women's access to reproductive health services, and ensure all deaf persons have equal opportunities to participate meaningfully in social, economic activities, as well as political and public life of our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sai Sai. Don't forget to sign. Okay, this is our experiential program for all of you. Thank you very much, Sai Sai. I think you put the whole story in a very comprehensive but also succinct way. So let's debunk myth about sign language. And we like to show 2 videos before we are asking our 2 deaf presenters to share their stories. So we will let's hear about this. And then I would like to show that that deaf actors are in videos and we will get to see them. And then for blind persons, there is going to be a narration for almost all the scripts done. Okay, so let's enjoy the videos.
Sign language, what is it?
It is our language.
What do you know about sign
Can you
language?
hear? Okay.
Many people ask me, do all deaf people everywhere use the same sign language?
No. There are over 200 sign languages in the world.
At least 70 million deaf persons use sign languages. We deaf people are co-workers, friends, and family members. We use sign languages in our daily life.
But many countries don't recognize sign language as a proper language. Because of that, many of us deaf people cannot get access to information, healthcare, education, jobs, and other opportunities that affect our lives. Information,
Healthcare,
education,
jobs,
the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, and the Nippon Foundation collaborated with the World Federation of the Deaf Regional Secretariats for Asia and for Oceania to co-create a book to answer your questions about sign language.
Many deaf colleagues helped in the journey to produce this guide.
Please join us in this series of videos to introduce you to why we created this guide towards the legal recognition of sign languages in Asia and the Pacific. We will debunk the 10 myths about sign language for you.
and tell you about the law and legal recognition of sign language.
Okay, there is going to be a second video about common myth about sign language.
Let's debunk 10 common myths about sign language.
There is only one sign language. Everyone around the world uses the same sign language.
There are many spoken languages. We have at least 200 different sign languages in the world.
There is only one sign language for those who communicate in the English language.
Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America use English. But the deaf communities in all three countries use different sign languages: Australian Sign Language, Auslan, British Sign Language, BSL, and American Sign Language, ASL.
Sign language is inferior to spoken language and is not a proper language with grammar and word order.
Sign language is not just a combination of gestures. It has highly developed grammar and word structure.
Fingerspelling is sign language.
This is fingerspelling. Fingerspelling is just one part of sign language. The fingers express elements of a spoken language, such as letters of the alphabet.
Sign language is a word-for-word direct interpretation of spoken language.
The word order and grammar of spoken languages differ from that of sign languages. Facial expression, movement of the head, hands and arms, body orientation, and use of personal space are all part of speaking sign languages.
Sign language is too basic for conveying complex concepts.
False. Sign language can explain complex concepts, just like spoken language. In the world, there are a lot more deaf people than you might think who are active in professional fields communicating in sign language and dealing with complex concepts.
A deaf person can understand you if you speak slowly and loudly.
It depends.
Don't expect all deaf persons to lip read. Some hard of hearing persons might prefer to use spoken language to converse.
Deaf persons must learn to speak and lip read.
False. Deaf persons have the right to choose whether or not to learn speaking and lip reading, to learn the use of sign language, to access sign language interpretation.
Yes, we must have our rights to choices. Writing is the best way to communicate with a deaf person.
There is no written form of sign languages. With technology like smartphones, sign language communication can be shared in video format.
Only deaf mutes or the deaf and dumb use sign language.
Never call deaf persons mutes or dumb. That's rude. It hurts. Hearing people also communicate in sign language, just like a Japanese speaker can also speak other languages.
There's more. Tell your friends about this. The United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, and the Nippon Foundation collaborated with the World Federation of the Deaf Regional Secretariats for Asia and for Oceania to co-create a book to answer your questions about sign language.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm almost forcing you to do this. Do you realize that? Did you have any myth about sign language? Please confess. Yes, please raise a hand. Only few people, so everyone except the 1 or 2 persons have the right understanding of sign language. You are fantastic. Okay, all right, okay, great. So we run from these videos, which we will upload on our website early part of next week. You can use it for after the next presentation. So let's hear from our fellow deaf women. First person, may I introduce Miss Mariah Agbay. She is the president of the Philippine Federation of the Deaf. Floor is yours, and you can talk about your own experiences and your community experiences on communication and particularly reproductive rights. Thank you, and please welcome Miss Malaya again with this. Okay, go ahead. She's here, and then people who are online can see her in the video, and then interpreter is here as well.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I am Mariah Agbay, presenting issues of deaf women in the Philippines on sexual and reproductive health rights. Yes, this is my sign name. It's a bent B near the eyebrows. I am Mariah, the current president of Philippine Federation of the Deaf, and I'm a trans woman. I have been involved in the deaf community and also in the disability community for for 18 years. So, presenting on the issues encountered by deaf Filipino women, first, there is barrier in communication. When we consult with doctors, they don't know sign language. It's always limited access for us deaf people. We need to know also about our sexual reproductive health rights, but we don't have the access that we need. For example, if we want to learn about family planning or decide about our own pace in giving birth, there is no help, there is no access, no information access. We see people, hearing people have access. Maybe you have YouTube announcements or announcements in barangays or information, but it's not in sign language. It's always spoken, or there are videos, not even captions available. So deaf people remain ignorant and not included in the discussion of sexual reproductive health rights. Then, as a result, deaf people have limited awareness on sexual and reproductive health rights. For example, if we are to take pills for family planning, or deaf people should learn how to use contraceptives, but there is no access to information such as this. They should have monthly consultations for if they are pregnant, but it's not available. So deaf people get pregnant, they don't know what to do with their selves, with their babies, and then they have it every year because no information about family planning is accessible. So they are not taught on how to take care of themselves and their babies. And then we also have these negative attitudes of service providers, even family. When deaf people sometimes do consultations, they usually have family with them, with the doctors. And then it's the hearing people, the family member and the doctor engaging, forgetting that the deaf person is just within the communication circle and giving them less information after the consultation happens, not during. So it's always a decision made by family. And then, of course, them being persons with disabilities, yes, for example, you're deaf, you might have children who are persons with disabilities as well. Other family members or even doctors decide to sterilize them while they're asleep. So this is done without asking their permission. So this is a kind of abuse and violence against the rights of that deaf person. Sometimes parents or family members would think they have the right to decide for their deaf children or deaf relative, and that is wrong. And a more worse experience is what we have for deaf Muslim women and children and girls. I mean, since the culture allows child marriage and even multiple marriages, deaf women do not understand the meaning of sexual reproductive rights. Health rights. They have no access to sign language, to the doctors, to communication because of the religion, the culture. The experience of deaf Muslim women is so worse, exacerbated because of their religion and culture, and there's no access to information. So, in general, deaf women must have access to doctors' consultation, hospital services. They must have basic knowledge of sign language, if they have videos being played in the hospital area, there should be interpreting insets in the videos so deaf people can understand this short videos sharing information of what's being given in the hospital. And then for mental health concerns, deaf women experience that as well. The issue on confidentiality should be there, should be respected, and you have to have interpreters also during seminars, webinars on HIV. So on HIV, deaf should be invited. They should be made aware. Seminars or webinars on learning, explaining about STD, HIV, and AIDS. So what we mean by that is they should have an interpreter who can explain or translate better these concepts so deaf people can learn about their sexual reproductive rights and also on HIV and STD plus AIDS. And then we, as an issue of intersectionality, we also have deaf LGBTQIA members, and they are people too. For trans men or lesbian deaf, they have the same biological composition as women. So they may decide to give birth or not. And you should respect that. So if it also happens in the Philippines that deaf lesbian or trans men are victims of rape. So if they opt to not have the baby after the victimization, then they should be respected. That's their body and it's their right. Next slide. For deaf trans women, yes, they have a different biological composition as with other women, but they also need access to information about hormone use. They have to understand, but this is not available for deaf trans women. They just buy any medicine or any hormones that is being shared to them by other trans women as well, and that's not safe. They have to understand the meaning for each process. So they want inclusion, or we want inclusion in the community, participation, and not pity. Our bodies, or my body, and it is my right. So with the Filipino Sign Language Law, or what we also call as Republic Act 11106, this is the Philippine Federation of the Deaf has worked with the Commission on Filipino Languages, with the National Coordinating Network of Deaf Organizations in the Philippines, composed of 5 national organizations, and the National Coordinating Network of Interpreting, composed of those and the law working together for deaf access. And thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a real story, and then it's also impressive that the Philippines itself has a sign language specific law, which we will learn more about it. Let's hear from Kun Sudala, I'm sorry, from Thai Association of the Deaf about her own experiences and community experiences. Please have warm welcome Dukun Sudara.
Hello, everybody. Introducing myself. Hi, I'm introducing myself. My name is Sudarat. I am from the Thai Organization for the Deaf. And can I just move to the next slide, please? So now I would like to introduce and talk about briefly the outline of my discussion will be on 3 topics. First of all, the Thai sign language booking system. Second, on the women's healthcare matters, and in terms of accessibility, and thirdly, about my experience with the health systems here in Thailand. A system whereby you need to book 3 days in advance or a medical practitioner. There's no payment required, so the service is free of charge. So for deaf women, some of the health accessibility issues that's concern of us, that's of importance to us, is first of all for the deaf women, in terms of the cancer screening and mammogram, and other aspects such as the vaginal examination, and topics of when we need to include mammogram, as I mentioned, for biopsy, and also pap smears, as well as pap smears test, and also emotional as well as consultations for our well-being in general. These are some of the aspects of things of services that's required by the deaf women here in Thailand. Mostly of the cases that are required by us because of the differences in the deaf level of education of the deaf women here in Thailand. An interpreter is really crucial for us to have better accessibility and understanding when we require such consultation. Is of concern. For example, the need of an interpreter. When a deaf lady or deaf woman goes to see a doctor, the deaf or the interpreter will provide information, because with the through the interpreter, information can be provided with in-depth and not just communicate all this information in depth and thoroughly and comprehensively to us is really crucial. As I mentioned, the education level is different of the for the deaf women. So sometimes the interpreter has to work in different ways and communication methods to ensure the information is clearly conveyed from the doctor to the deaf client. In the past, maybe there could be parents or family members who were doing the interpretation, but that's not what it's required, because that's not good, because sometimes the information is always reduced, and the time that's given to us without a professional interpreter will not be sufficient to communicate the extensiveness of the information that a deaf person deserves and have the right to access when they meet a deaf practitioner, or they meet a medical practitioner. And thirdly, for a deaf patient, in terms of awareness at the hospital, so what's really crucial is that some of the hospitals which are community based or where they are in a rural area. So in the rural clinics or hospitals, awareness may not be as high. And so when they meet a deaf person, sometimes it could be much reduced because of the level of awareness. And that could be an issue for us when we, because they have a lower awareness when they meet a deaf person in the hospitals or clinics which are established in the out of the urban areas.
Excuse me for intervention. Some online participants, deaf participants cannot see camera.
She's doing international
She's
sign.
doing international sign.
Copy sign.
All right. Okay. Okay.
All right. May I continue? Okay, let me just continue then. So next, just to talk about information and some experiences in terms of health issue of a deaf women here in Thailand. For example, I've picked 3 case studies of 3 deaf women and some of the very personal experience that they've shared. The first one was the pre-vagina vagina examination that she actually undergone. It was really challenging for her because facility, she was expected to know what to do without any explanation or clear instruction given to her as what she needed to do when she needed to do a vagina examination. So it's really crucial when we have step-by-step instructions that's clear to provide to a deaf patient so that she is able to feel comfortable and feel at ease when she has to undergo such examination. And women B, the case study for women B, she has it was during time of COVID where she was she was pregnant, and during that time, this deaf woman, she's hard of hearing actually, and what happened was that when she has difficulty with childbirth, and she was telling the doctor, could I just remove my face mask so that I can communicate, or can the doctor remove the face mask so that I can at least talk and see what's happening? But the doctor said no, because mandatorily we are not allowed to remove the facial mask. So it was very difficult to communicate, and the deaf women was actually pleading with the doctor, but the doctor insisted, and the nurses as well insisted that they are not allowed to remove the mask to communicate with her. So it was really difficult, and if she has difficulty with childbirth, if she had to really depend on gestures and to try and understand and comprehend whatever she can with a very limited communication at the hospital during COVID, and she had childbirth difficulty. And women C was a situation where the deaf woman went to a doctor for in the case of emergency, because it was an emergency that the interpreter was not able to arrive at that moment. So what happened was that she asked if we could use the phone as a way of video relay to communicate with the doctor, and the doctor said, "No, you're not allowed to do that. Why do you want me to make a phone call to your interpreter?" So the doctor actually refused the deaf patient, and she said, "Just write to me." I mean, but it's really difficult. It's a case of emergency, and could you? The deaf patient asked whether could you at least use a voice call to make to at least tell my family or the person to what's happening. But so the doctor was reluctant. So communication was really difficult. And these are the 3 real incidences or case studies experienced by deaf women with the medical or healthcare facilities here. So I think what's really important to empower deaf and hard of hearing women is the way forward, providing information that's accessible in terms of their health, for their rights. When they visit the hospital, awareness is really important in terms of communication, how deaf and medical practitioners especially, are able to be aware of how to deal or handle a deaf patient. What are difficulties? What are ways to communicate? Maybe through visual gestures, maybe through visual communication. Maybe there could be diagrams. Maybe it can be using through the phone, or various ways to ensure the communication is complete. It's well conveyed, and the deaf patient is able to understand. In the case of emergency, maybe the phone as a relay communication would be one of the last resort if an interpreter is not able to come within a short period of time. But the principle is that full and comprehensive communication is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think these two presentations made us realize specific situations where communication in sign language is absolutely essential and crucial because it matters for your rights, dignity, your health situations. You need to know about it, right? And when it comes to the ways to have a sign language interpretation, it can be on-site and it can be remote. And also points out the need for training for health professionals to understand the rights and the needs of deaf persons in general, but in this particular context, deaf women. Okay. I'd like to say that we have plenty of time at the end, so I'm sure you have many questions and concerns and views and comments about this event, but that will come at the end. So please hold your questions and comments until then. So let's watch another video, the last one of the seekers of the 3 videos, which talks about legal recognition of sign languages in laws.
Legal recognition of sign language is critical to break barriers to deaf participation in society so that we can learn sign language, get educated in sign language, and freely use it in our lives.
The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities recognizes sign language as a legitimate language.
In the CRPD spirit, some governments have enacted sign language specific legislation in support of sign language rights.
There are 7 key elements that make strong legal provisions for sign language.
The first key element is for the law to recognize sign language as a language.
The second element is to identify public settings where sign language interpretation has to be ensured.
Justice system,
Media,
public school system,
public transportation,
facilities and services,
healthcare system.
The third element is to guarantee the right to learn and use sign language for education and skills training.
Many sign language interpreters work on an ad hoc and voluntary basis. It's important to have a professional sign language interpretation system with training, accreditation, and funding. That's the fourth element.
The fifth element is the use of technology for sign language. Apps, like those on smart devices, enable remote sign language interpreting. Light and tactile signals for audible alarm sounds can save lives in emergencies.
We need research to build a foundation for national sign language policy. Raising awareness of sign language is equally important. That's the sixth element.
Last but not least, policymakers must engage us deaf persons in decision making on all sign language related policies and programs. Only with our meaningful participation can our lived realities be captured in policies and programs.
If these 7 elements are integrated into law that is implemented, we could enrich the fabric of Asia-Pacific societies with sign languages. We deaf persons would be empowered members of society.
We've come together, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, and the Nippon Foundation collaborated with the World Federation of the Deaf Regional Secretariats for Asia and for Oceania to co-create a guidebook to answer your questions about sign language.
Thank you very much. It was a very good video, and then all kudos to all the deaf actors in these videos. And Dr. Anthony John is actually in the online audience. I wonder if he can put on his video and say hello. If not possible, he can do that later during the question and answer period. But thank you very much for this video. So we did our best effort to lay out key principles and then elements to be included in the law to recognize sign language and promote sign language-based communication. So let's hear from our government players and public sector players about what has been done and what they are intending to do. So we have a representative, first of all, from the government of the Philippines, Mr. Dandy Curico Victor. He's an officer in charge and executive director, National Council on Disability Affairs. He's going to talk about the legal setting and what his office has been doing. So floor is yours, Mr. Dandy.
Good morning, everyone. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the kind introduction. First of all, we would like to thank the UNESCAP for inviting the National Council on Disability Affairs to this particular side event to be part of the conversation with the theme, Leaving No One Behind, Don't Forget Deaf Women, Importance of Reproductive Rights of Deaf Women and Sign Language-Based Communication. Next slide, please. Our office is a national agency tasked to develop responsive policies and provide effective coordination and monitoring of programs and services to promote the rights of persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. We have a governing board composed of 13 government-like agencies with different mandates but contributory to the realization to the attainment of the full potential and well-being of Filipino persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. Our agency is also the lead monitor in the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, where the Philippines is a state party to the said treaty since 2008. Also one of the 3 countries that has an official national sign language without prejudice to the use of other forms of communication, depending on individual choice or preference. Though it can be noted that NCDA has no specific provision nor mention in the law, neither we are part of the Interagency Council, we are obligated to monitor its effective implementation and submit the same as part of the state report to the Committee on CRPD. Recognizing sign language for the deaf is crucial for fostering inclusivity, preserving cultural identity, and ensuring effective communication, and upholding the rights of deaf individuals in various aspects of life. Next slide, please. Prior to the passage of the law, the sign language or the Filipino Sign Language We would like to emphasize that as early as 2012, our member agency, the Department of Health, has developed, in partnership with the Academe and the Philippine Deaf Resource Center, Basic Filipino Sign Language module for healthcare providers that aim to equip healthcare professionals with the knowledge and skills necessary to communicate with deaf and speech impaired patients, preventing inaccuracies and ensuring quality healthcare delivery. However, its implementation is regional and localized. And now that we have a new law, its implementation should be harmonized with the implementing rules and regulation of the law. And as mentioned by Maria, she already highlighted the limitations, the experiences that they're encountering at the local level. We are also delighted to present to you a manual on gender equality focusing on women with disabilities, which was rolled out by NCDA last March with 5 objectives. One is to raise awareness, that is to increase awareness about the unique challenges faced by Filipino women and girls with disabilities, including deaf women, and shed light on the intersection of culture, gender, and disability contributing to their marginalization. Second is to educate and inform, which is to provide comprehensive education on historical perspectives, disability concepts, gender issues, and inclusive development frameworks. It is designed to equip trainees with deep understanding of the complexities in the lives of women and girls with disabilities. Third is to empower trainees, which is to inspire for them to become advocates for change and arm them with the knowledge and tools needed to address the specific needs and concerns of women and girls with disabilities. Fourth is to promote inclusivity. That is to encourage integration of women and girls with disabilities into the mainstream of development and emphasize the importance of recognizing gender equality as a distinct issue in disability inclusive development. And lastly, to facilitate skill development, that is to provide practical guidance and skills for analyzing gender and disability issues, and enable trainees to contribute to policymaking and programming promoting inclusivity and equity. Next slide, please. We would like also to share with you that we have a Persons with Disability Affairs Office law, which was passed in 2016. The aim of the law is to establish an institutional mechanism to ensure the implementation of programs and services for persons with disabilities at the local government unit. The Philippines is composed of 7,640 islands, 1,715 local government units, and that is the intent of the law. So as far as providing services for persons with disabilities, including deaf women, we will be able to do that. However, we have also our own challenges. And for the last slide, achieving disability inclusion is a gradual and ongoing process that requires sustained efforts over time. Progress is expected to unfold progressively based on identified priorities and action plans. The realization of disability inclusion acknowledges that change takes time and involves strategic intervention in key areas such as accessibility, education, employment, and healthcare, as mentioned in the Jakarta Declaration, which was presented a while ago. The approach emphasizes flexibility, adaptability, and continuous monitoring and evaluation to ensure that implemented actions effectively contribute to a more inclusive society for individuals with disabilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dande. We understand the legal framework of surrounding the rights of persons with disabilities and the protection of women with disabilities and Sign Language Act. I would like to inform you that in Asia and the Pacific, only 3 countries have Sign Language Specific Act. One of the countries is, of course, the government of the Philippines. In addition, New Zealand and Republic of Korea. So ESCAP is promoting this kind of act which recognizes sign language as a language and then have specific mechanisms to protect the rights to that language. We actually have a representative from the Commission on Language in the Philippines who is the focal point of implementing the Sign Language Act. But due to emergencies, somebody might be available at the end, but somebody might not be. But I just like to say that it's very, very progressive and then interesting that Language Commission under the president is responsible for the implementation of Sign Language Act. But of course, NCDA, National Council of Disability Affairs, is supporting it and then generally overseeing the rights promotion of persons with disabilities. Now, I'd like to go on and inviting another person, Dr. Andesh Mangala, Assistant Professor at Indian Sign Language Research and Training Center, Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, to provide you information about how the government is protecting the rights to sign language-based communication. Floor is yours, Dr. Andesha.
Thank you. So the Indian government ratified.
Sorry.
The Indian government ratified the United Nations Convention.
Can everybody hear her? Maybe I will give my mic. Oh, yeah.
Oh, am I audible now? No. Okay. Am I audible now? Is it better? Yes. Thank you. Right. The Indian government ratified the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities on 1st October 2007. As an outcome of the ratification and advocacy by the Indian deaf community, the Indian government recognized the need for a standardized Indian Sign Language and established the Indian Sign Language Research and Training Center in September 2015, which is a national level institute for the promotion of Indian Sign Language. India further strengthened its commitment to promote Act, which was passed in 2016. This act recognizes sign language as a means of communication and casts responsibility on the government for taking measures for ensuring that persons with hearing disabilities can have access in various spheres of life, such as education, police and legal situations, public places, news and media, and medical situations. Further, in 2020, the government adopted the new education policy, which reinforced education and envisages development of national curriculum materials in ISL. To implement the new law and the new education policy, the Indian government has taken several initiatives, such as conducting ISL awareness sessions and need-based short-term training programs with various target groups like teachers, parents, government officials, rehabilitation professionals, police, and others, to ensure that they are sensitized to the needs of persons with hearing disabilities. Conducting such awareness sessions, particularly during the International Week of Deaf every year and International Day of Sign Languages on 23rd September every year, has made ISL increasingly visible to the general public. The daily broadcast of news with Indian Sign Language interpreters by the government broadcasting channel has also helped provide accessibility for deaf people. To increase the availability of interpreters, a professional course for interpreters has been implemented at various institutions. Also includes an ISL component now, and efforts are being made to increase the number of ISL teachers by implementing an ISL teacher training course exclusively for deaf individuals. In addition, other resources such as an ISL dictionary, school textbooks in ISL, and online self-learning module on basic ISL have also been developed. Work is ongoing to expand the vocabulary of Indian Sign Language to add more academic terms, STEM vocabulary, as well as domain-specific vocabulary. ISL as a language subject option in schools is also being developed. Recognizing that ISL interpreters are essential to promote accessibility in various communication situations across India, and where local interpreters may not be available, ISL-RTC has recently commenced a free video relay service in which an ISL interpreter is available to facilitate communication with. So the VRS service has been used by deaf women in medical settings to communicate in sign language with doctors and enable deaf women to get access to information in ISL in medical settings and therefore assert their rights. It is important to provide health-related information to deaf women in their first language, which is sign language, to make it possible for them to make medical decisions based on complete information about their health and their reproductive rights. Initiatives have also been taken by civil society, deaf women's groups, NGOs, and private entities to conduct workshops and webinars on women's health issues and develop awareness materials on women's health and reproductive rights, all of which is done in sign language. A UNFPA 2022 article has noted the progressive government initiatives undertaken by the Indian government in the last 5 decades to recognize the bodily and reproductive autonomy of Indian women. Now, the title of this side event, Leaving No One Behind, Don't Forget Deaf Women, is a timely reminder about the issues faced by deaf women in particular in asserting their bodily and reproductive rights. The Indian government will continue to strive to increase sign language accessibility and provide essential resources for deaf women in sign language to empower them and enable them to realize their rights.
Thank you, Dr. Andesha. I think you really provided a very succinct, comprehensive overview of your institute. It's amazing that your institute not only promotes awareness of sign language and sign language interpretation, but also you train sign language interpreters, you involve deaf, both men and women and different genders in your planning and implementation. Audience, I just like to say that ISL in her presentation means Indian Sign Language. So the interpretation provided here in this forum is International Sign, although the acronym of both are the same. Just want to differentiate that. Thank you very much. Now, may I clarify if we are able to access Mr. Benjamin? Okay, thank you very much. Due to emergency, Benjamin himself is not available, but Patrick from the Commission of Filipino Language is available online to be able to present you the overview of what the Commission does in terms of sign language. So may I invite Patrick? Your questions and comments. We see Patrick, yes. If you can unmute Patrick as a speaker. Is he speaking in Filipino Sign Language, Catherine? But I think Patrick, in the meantime, can go ahead, and then he is speaking in Filipino Sign Language, correct? Yeah. So Catherine or John can interpret. So this is the diversity of sign language which is demonstrated to you as well. Thank you very much. Patrick, go ahead. Welcome and then thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, first, good afternoon to everyone. I'm really sorry that I was not able to join right away the Zoom session, but again, my name is Patrick Brian Ablasa, and this is my name sign. As a senior deaf advocate advisor. On the Filipino languages is the government agency responsible in monitoring the different languages, both spoken and sign language, here in the Philippines. Right now, through the Republic Act 11106 or the Filipino Sign Language Act, recognizing the uniqueness in making sure that the implementation of the act is or the Philippine. We have established different systems, for example, the National Communication Information Policy, which means that there's a procedure in terms of the usage of and the involvement of Filipino Sign Language in different interventions and different policies. For example, in school, in health, in court, in media, in workplaces, as well as with different government services that would involve deaf people and different systems, primarily in terms of communication policies, interpreting systems, as well as, let's say, for example, the interpreting inset on television and making sure that there is the standardization as because we don't have any rules or policies yet in terms of how big should television inset should be, and so we have to make sure that we are advocating for the standardization of interpreting practices in the country. Also, in terms of one of the areas that we are heavily involved in is in education. Have a mixture of sign languages being used by different public schools, such as American Sign Language and other sign modalities like Signing Exact English. And there are also different perspectives in terms of the sign language being used in the classroom as related to the spoken Filipino or the spoken English. And sometimes they see Filipino Sign Language as being subpar. Conceptions, because Filipino Sign Language in itself is an independent, unique language, very distinct from the spoken languages. And so we have to, again, advocate for the recognition and the uniqueness of Filipino Sign Language. And that is one of the primary responsibilities of the Commission. So we have to make sure that all the schools here in the country are looking into how Filipino Sign Language could be used by these different schools educating deaf learners. And also we are trying to clarify certain misconceptions in terms of that there's a written version of Filipino Sign Language when in fact there is none. So we have to make sure that I'm clarifying with deaf educators that Filipino Sign Language is being used as a medium of instruction when explaining concepts to the deaf person, but we are also training our deaf learners in writing and in reading both English and Filipino. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Very much. It's amazing that within the institutional mechanism of Filipino Language Commission, you are a part of it as a professional staff, and that is what we call disability inclusion as well. So may I invite Benjamin to supplement what Patrick has just said? You have few minutes, and thank you for joining, Benjamin, despite the emergencies you have to face.
Thank you. Thank you for understanding. Thank you also for giving us this opportunity, rare opportunity for us, for the Commission on the Filipino Language, to impart to you the efforts and advocacies of the Commission on the Filipino Language is doing on the Filipino Sign Language. Let me just give you the most important actions that the government has taken in relation to promoting the Filipino Sign Language in the Philippines. In 2018, the Congress has approved a law. It is the Republic Act 11126. It is the Filipino Sign Language Act. It is the law that declares that the Filipino Sign Language shall be the national sign language of the Filipino deaf and the official sign language of the government in all transactions involving the deaf, and mandating its use in universities, in schools, in media, and workplaces. You can see the coverage that it entails. It is a wide spectrum. Thus, the law also, after 2 years of passing, have created an implementing rules and regulations, and that the Commission on the Filipino Language is at the forefront of this implementing rules of the said law. And the law also states that that in compliance with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms of persons with disabilities, the state should uphold respect for their inherent dignity, individual autonomy, and independence by guaranteeing accessibility and eliminating all forms of discrimination in all public interactions and transactions. Hence, the Commission on the Filipino Language took this seriously by creating a Filipino Sign Language unit inside the agency, so that we will be a sort of a model for all the agencies to follow, that we have created a unit, a division for that matter, that shall cascade all the advocacies of the deaf community and deaf rights. I would like also to emphasize the law under Section 3, stating that Filipino Sign Language as the national sign language of the Philippines. It refers to the FSL and declared as the national sign language. The FSL shall be recognized, promoted, and supported as the medium of official communication in all transactions involving the deaf, and as the sign language of instruction of deaf education, without prejudice to the use of other forms of communication depending on the individual choice or preference. Because for many years, the deaf has been marginalized and did not only been given the privilege to join in so many programs and projects of the government. But this time, because of the passing of the said law, now it has been declared to be the official medium of instruction of the deaf. Not just that, we have established a unique form of language by recognizing our own language, which is pertaining to FSL related publications and many conferences and presentations talking about history, education, linguistic discussion about FSL, and it is also first time in the history of the Philippines that after passing the IRR, or the implementing rules and regulations of the said law, the RA 11106, or the FSL Act, the Commission have sponsored for the community to create and have its own version of the national anthem of the Philippines to be interpreted in Filipino Sign Language, and that is first time in the history of the Philippines. And right, cultural agencies and Civil Service Commission to have this inset be put to all of their information and education campaign materials, and that is a breakthrough in the realm of the Filipino Sign Language. I would like to emphasize also that under the FSL law, inside the implementing rules and regulations, there are specific and put into place specifically for agencies that shall have impact to the FSL, like for example, the Department of Education. So part of the implementation process in addressing deaf rights are the inclusion of the curriculum and the collective effort that should be made in order for this curriculum be about creating a more fun curriculum that shall address the education concerns of the deaf community.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. So
from
yeah,
basic
if you can,
education to higher education. And I'd like to, in my conclusion, I would like to say to the community that the Filipino Sign Language, as a whole in the Philippines right now, are doing its best and in advocating deaf rights and all the concerns that have been given to the Commission. We are all taking this into consideration in order for them to realize the effect of the RA 11106.
thank you very much, Benjamin. And it was a very comprehensive description of what your commission does. It's very impressive, and you can get to Filipino national anthem in Filipino Sign Language, which we like to see in other countries as well. Now we learned a lot from your from this series of presentations today, I hope. So now the floor is yours. Any questions and comments? So many hands I see. We have another side event. We have another side event coming up 11:45. Nonetheless, we try to accommodate to your needs. And my colleague Zian will also follow up on any hands from online participation. Thank you very much. We have more than 80 participants online. So first, I'd like to ask this lady in pink at the front desk, not desk, table. Floor is yours. But I'd like to appreciate that your intervention will be very brief.
Okay.
and make the point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity. I'm Sari Shah. First of all, congratulations to you to conduct this such a informative sessions, and we learn very good practices from the Philippines story and Thailand, and we know about the 200 languages, and this is very, and 70 million people use it, and it is gain our knowledge. And I'm also working for the people with the disability and special need persons with this is life for them matters, and they are very motivated. And we 2 months ago we conduct the conference, and they are very energetic and passionate, and they come as a speaker become. So we need to this type of the practices, because leave no one behind, and we must be included all. So this session it's really great, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have one online. But I know. But I will come to you. But can you wait? We have Mr. Dario online. Mr. Dario, please have a very short intervention. Appreciate. Thank you. Mr. Dario, we are waiting for you. While we are waiting for you, be ready, Mr. Dario. But I'd like to ask a lady behind, passionately raising her hand. And please briefly introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Shelani Palihawadana. I represent Youth Advocacy Network of Sri Lanka.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Dario, can you wait until after a lady from the floor finishes, and then I will come back to you. Thank you very much.
So we have been working with the deaf community in Sri Lanka, specifically with the young people, to improve the access to information and services on sexual and reproductive health and rights. So what I have is a question for the first speaker and anyone with the technical and the lived-in experience, is that one of the challenges that we have faced is in service provision, specifically psychosocial support, the aspect of privacy. Because if a person who does not speak sign language is the service provider, we have had a challenge because there needs to be an intermediate sign language interpreter to communicate. We have had concerns on the privacy of the individual receiving services. So I want to know how it has been addressed in other countries. And also just to say that I'm really moved and touched to see that other countries having gone so far in a course that I have worked in back in Sri Lanka, and I think everyone here deserves a round of applause. Secondly, that as a youth-led organization, we are open for partnerships and networking to get the best practices from other countries. I think we will network with all of you later after the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a response from Mariah? First of all, about her question about maintaining the privacy of the person and women.
All right. Mariah's signing. If there's a family member interpreting for the deaf person, our organization would recommend interpreters who has a same level or who can match the level of communication and understanding education of that deaf person. So if you have a professional interpreter during the consult interpreters, so confidentiality is maintained. And then for youth participants and needing access to information, it's important in our country that health service providers should be trained in sign language, basic sign language. So whenever there is a need for these services, they are available. This is our goal.
Thank you very much. Consular, anything to supplement? I appreciate if it's very short.
If I would just add to that with regard to the situation in Thailand. So what's really crucial for us, like it's for in terms of privacy, as a code of conduct for interpreters, because information has to be safeguarded between the doctors and the nurses, and beyond the room of the consultation, no information is divulged or shared.
Okay, Dr. Andesho, your short response to
I
this?
think the point has been covered by both Mariah and Sudarat that interpreters have a professional code of conduct which they are supposed to follow, and privacy is a part of that.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much. That is very important. So may I ask Mr. Dario online, and I will be followed by a person in Hyogo Prefecture in Japan. Go ahead, Mr. Dario. Unmute your mic and go.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Yes.
I have two questions.
It's very hard to hear you. It's not audible.
Oh, is it? Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. I have one. Is the FSL mandatory in the schools and colleges and for teachers in Philippines as per the latest that specific law they have passed? And my suggestion is, what is important? Of course, it has to be sign language has to be recognized as a language like any other language. That goes without saying. But in the meantime, by the time those constitutional provisions are changed, it is important to make sign language as a mandatory language for children in the schools, and the teachers in the schools, colleges, universities, to ensure that the children and the persons with hearing impairment have access to what is taught.
Yes.
In fact, for a number of anybody who is wanting to join certain jobs in government, or say for example, receptionist, medical practitioner.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dario. So I think your question is if the Filipino Sign Language is taught in school or not. Can I have a very short response to that question from anybody? Benjamin? Or Patrick?
All right, Patrick signing. Again, thank you, Daryl, for the question. Yes, Filipino Sign Language is being taught in schools where the deaf are, but follow the law or exact English because the Philippines is an archipelago. It's a very big country. Somewhere in the Visayas, the southern part of the Philippines, they use signing exact English, which is not the official language.
Thank you. Okay, so in principle, there are variations. We talk more, Mr. Dario, and then the Filipino team. But I know we have another passionate hand on site here, and then I will maybe come back, or we are running out of time. We have to play by ear. So a lady from the middle table, please say your name and then where you're from.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Dorodi. I am from the International Disability Alliance. We are a global alliance of organizations of persons with disabilities. The World Federation of the Deaf is also a member of IDA. I'm from India. I first want to like to thank the panelists for raising all of these very important issues, and I really commend the fact that the concept of ableism has really come out strongly in this panel, because I think that lies at the core of the discrimination that persons with disabilities face while accessing healthcare services. I also want to thank them for flagging intersectionality. I did want to mention something because I picked up on the point made by the representative from Philippines NCTA about progressive realization. While the right to health, non-discrimination and equality are immediate. So I think we really have to ensure that while the systems are being put in place, such as sign language, legal recognition, availability of sign language interpreters, persons with disabilities in the meantime are not discriminated against. And I think that's really critical, and reasonable accommodation really has a role to play here. I also want to quickly reiterate something that the speaker from India mentioned. The role of organizations of deaf persons, I think, is very important in this advocacy, and so I thank you all for also flagging that. Thank you so much, and thank you for this lovely, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, echoing the messages and then emphasizing that the issues of ableism. We actually have to finish our event in a minute. Only, okay. Which one is the most passionate? No, I know. Okay, maybe I should go for and then come back, and then Yasunori-san from JFD. 3 more, and we finish, and the lunch box will be given to you for the people who are here on site. Sorry about online people. Okay, then we finish, and go ahead.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. So I'm Tuan. I'm from Vietnam. So my organization already working on this, and we have the television Vietnam to provide sign language equipment to support that since COVID time until now. Just for 30 minutes, the main highlight news. Yeah, because it's very expensive. So my question that's one is that are very impressive to hear about Thailand experience that you can provide that free sign language for people when they come for health consultation. So what is the source of how is it covered, like by health insurance, or you have any special funding to cover that? Because I think it's very important. Yeah. The second thing is that also in Vietnam, for people who can learn sign language is already advantage. Many women doesn't have the language. Some people, it seems like they do the sign language, but it's just the sign language in the family, not the real sign language. And some doesn't have this the sign language at all. So one time I talked to a woman who suffered from violence. Professional interpreter to talk to her, but then we couldn't talk because she doesn't have the sign language, so the interpreter, professional interpreter, cannot talk to her. So it took us a long time, try to a different way to communicate. So I also would like to ask from your experience, so like in that type situation where even the professional interpreter cannot do what will be the best way, especially when we have to work with this very. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, Kunsudalal, can you provide us with a short answer about who covers the cost of sign language interpreters in hospitals? And second question is by deaf people in rural areas. Okay.
Thank you for the question. In regards to cost and the budgeting for interpreters, right? That was the question posed to me. All right, in Thailand, the Thailand government, we have a budget allocated for interpreters. It is for 5 different services. One of them will be for healthcare interpreting, and there was one more. So there are 5 of them. Let me just recall. One of them is for healthcare, and one is for social services. For example, when there's a meeting or for official meetings, And there's one more budgeted for accessibility for healthcare services. One is for police cases. So that's part of the budget as well for court and legal services. That's also provided in the national budget. And general services in terms of recreational and maybe other aspects. There's also a provision for that. So also for, like, for example, civil marriages, and there are also provisions of that within the budget. For employment services, that's in terms of provision of an interpreter. So these are also provided for communication when the deaf person seeks employment. For education, then that's not free actually. For education services for interpreting, that one has to be paid for by somebody, not in the budget.
Okay. With regard to the second question, maybe after the event, you two of you can talk in person. Would that be okay? And then, okay, I'd like to ask, the lady at the front table, and then I go to Mr. Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
Namaste, I'm Sanju from India, and I just want to briefly tell the story of Rajasthan, which is situated in a Thar desert in India. The Thar desert, mostly largest subcontinental and challenging area in Rajasthan, where so many elderly people, especially women who have so many health issues, they are facing basic resource. NGO has been working for years together to change this situation through a variety of programs, prioritize water and nutrition and health needs for elderly people. Gravis form community-based institution like Older People Association. So through them, we are connecting these people, and we ensure their control access to fundamental resources like water, health, and other medical facilities. And focusing, our main focus institution, we have Gravis Hospital in Thar Desert, and which is working on Vision Center. We have Vision Center where we provide vision glasses and hearing machines. So my question is how can we ensure the participation of older and population, especially disabled women, in contribution to sustainable development, considering the many challenges like health, food, sanitation, education, etc. So what are the good practices that adopt to improve this situation? Thank you.
Yes, we really have to close this session. And would it be okay if the panelists will be here there outside, and we will join in lunch session, during which there is going to be a detailed, elaborated answer. And I know Mariah would like to respond to other issues in terms of the cost of sign language interpretations and other issues of privacy and other issues. But we need to close this session. And Yasunori-san, do you have any comments? But if you can make it 20 seconds, then I would appreciate that in sign language. What is it? What? Yes?
Hi.
Can you see?
Can the interpreter see me? Yes. All right. So hi, everybody. I'm very happy to meet all of you. It's a really exciting event that I'm following. In regard to the deaf culture and accessibility, I think one issue that has to be pertinent that we all may be aware of is the in terms of the deaf women and focus on it in terms of deaf women, in terms of the and the healthcare, HR for women, that's really important. I think that's one issue that we need to be very aware and that's really crucial because women issues and accessibility, it's one that may have been sidelined and that should be in the focus and in our discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, Yasunori-san wrap up the whole side event in such a nice way, and then we like to close this session. Thank you very much for your interest, and you now know how to do this. Interpreters and deaf speakers, and in Japanese Sign Language, thank you is this. But in Thai Sign Language, thank you is, well, thank you is in Japanese is this. But in Thai Sign Language, what is it? Is that this? Thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you. So whatever the ways, we really like to extend our sincere thanks to all of you. Lunchbox, as promised, are provided. Don't forget deaf women, but don't forget to get the lunchbox, and please continue our conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the team members for supporting this event. And we actually also like to take a group photo, perhaps outside of the room. Thank you. Thank you, online participants. Please join us next time, and please continue our conversation on this. And if you have any questions or concerns, please write back to us. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ